Good evening, YouTube. Good evening, everyone. And please welcome one of my regular guests. I'm sure you know him by now, Mr. Ujames.
Hello there, this is Ben Francis, F-Ben 1956.
Of course it is, and yes. Wow, two podcasts on the one episode, which I'm going to say, watching it a second time, it's so strange how last week's one was meant to be the Hinchcliffe one, when actually this was far closer. And obviously, ultimately, we actually got a behind-the-sofa episode of Doctor Who. And I don't mean I don't care what you say, because I'm sure, James, you're going to nitpick like you always do. But, obviously, what is good horror is very subjective. Like, you don't like Ring. You like Japanese films, but you don't like Ring.
Oh,
No,
I do like it. The fact that you and Ian compared this to Ring makes me want to punch you, because Ring was so far superior to this in every possible respect. But
right. Okay. Right. I know that there is a lot of bollocks in this episode. I know the Clara stuff, everybody agrees that that's getting so old. The fact that I genuinely, in the Ian podcast, I genuinely thought, having seen it once, that it was all solved in half an hour, and there was 15 minutes of bollocks at the end. In fact, it's only about half that. It's about like 6 or 7 minutes of bollocks at the end. But it felt twice as long.
Well, considering the fact that the first 15 minutes was all bollocks as well, you were pretty close to the mark.
I don't quite agree with that. The pre-title sequence is pretty fucking
Aside
scary,
from the pre-titles, it's like the robot appearing to kill the police officer in The Caretaker. You've got to have the little... But no, when they arrive on the train and it's, oh, doctor, what's with that half smile? And he's trying to talk about the planets that were eaten by the black hole. And she's saying, oh, I don't hate you, I just can't do it anymore. Wow, 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 wow. God, I miss Tegan. When it's not fun, you don't do it anymore. Just smile, no tears, goodbye, doctor, and walk away. Never to return. Just dragging out this constant, are you a good man, are you a bad man? One of us is lying about his prime directive bullshit from that first episode / movie / lesbian fight scene. And now she, after all of that, spending the equivalent of a full episode whining about, oh, shall I stay or shall I go? Oh, fuck it, I'm going to go. Yes, leave my boyfriend at home in his flat. Why? Because having him die every week like Rory did would be really retreading the same, rewriting the same characters and retreading the same plot. Seriously, does anybody else smell Amy and Rory all over these two? And that's not even getting into the actual problems with the story, what little of it there was.
Right, so I'm going to guess that you didn't find the mummy or the foretold stare scary. You didn't find the concept scary.
No, not in the slightest.
Okay.
My problem with horror films, as I once described, once explained in an Amazon review years ago. This was before I started YouTubing. Back when that was the only place I had really to express my opinions. My review of the incredible Korean movie Tale of Two Sisters, recently remade by Hollywood, I think, and as usual, the Hollywood remake is a pile of rancid pig sewage. But in my review of the original Korean movie, I explained that traditional horror, scary monsters, etc., simply don't have. You might as well ask me to be terrified of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The fact that they are fictional completely robs them of any meaning for me. Instead, true psychological horror is the demons that we create within ourselves, the monsters that we create. This is why Ring has no bearing whatsoever on this. And for the love of the great holy donkey, the foretold, yes, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the episode by now, then why are you even watching the podcast? The foretold is the cybernetic remains of a soldier killed in a war. So why is he attacking old women and unarmed cooks? Why is he deliberately attacking the weakest and most fragile first, the unarmed first? That makes no sense. Why, even though the scroll is supposedly a flag, why is he drawn to that? Why isn't it some form of command module? Why weren't the captain of the train was a military officer? If the cybernetic machinery, which was still functioning as a working skeleton, keeping what was left of the soldier alive, was following standing orders to destroy the enemy, the captain should have died first, followed by the rest of the military personnel. It made no sense whatsoever. It was literally just an explanation pulled out of the doctor's arse at the last minute. There was absolutely nothing foreshadowing it. And this is one thing I want to say. People complain about that serials from the Hartnell and Troughton era, were too long. This was only 45 minutes, and it felt longer than Web Planet. Because, yes, all of the crap and all of the rubbish get into the actual story. Ah, yes, you are all scientists, and we have brought you here to analyse this thing, the foretold. And yes, actually analysing it. Rather than actually describe it as best as it could, trying to get as much data as possible to his colleagues, his unwilling colleagues, the professor. First of all, the professor of alien mythology, his reaction is to try to bargain for his life, etc., because it's my life, etc., etc., etc. It just reminds me, in the worst possible way, it reminds me of an episode of Babylon 5. The diseased Rafa, if you remember, Alex, is wiping out the Markham. And one of Dr. Franklin's friends is a Markham doctor. He is in the isolation chamber when suddenly he feels his throat getting sore, which, of course, is the first sign of the plague. So what does he do? Does he bitch and whine and say, "Oh, I don't want to die"? No, he spends his final minutes, really, giving as much information as possible to try and help the other doctors cure the disease. In this case, it's the same sort of thing. A scientist would die giving information, making as many observations as possible, forming hypotheses. And sorry, Frank Skinner, you mentioned something in the podcast. You were talking about how Kylie Minogue, etc., What was the point of Frank Skinner being in this at all? What was the point of the other guy from Miller and Armstrong being in the show? Except that, ooh, look, we got a big name. What was the point of Ken Dodd being in that one Sylvester McCoy episode? Look, we've got a big name, and the singer there, for no reason except to say, look, kiddies, we've got a singer who you know, and look, the Orient Express is in space, and look, we've got a mummy. Why did it have to be a mummy? I suppose the mummy is so much a part of popular culture if they tried to pass it off as any other kind of thing. The only other thing that I could think of would be a ghost, but that couldn't carry around the technology required. Oh no, they would have explained that with the whole out of phase thing. But yes, the only reason why I watched this episode is, as I explained, Alex, before we started watching, after watching Kill the Moon last week, I am now convinced that Moffat is cloning himself, for lack of a better term. That the so-called new and fresh writers who are going to bring a new perspective, a new life to the same old rubbish that Doctor Who has been churning out since 2005, are actually all not simply Moffat protégés, but have all graduated with degrees in screenwriting from Moffat University and have all sat at the feet of the master and learned well how to Moffat an episode. So, the person who wrote last week's episode, Kill the Moon, he has learned Moffat's just this once, everybody lives skill. The ability to create false tension for no purpose, and then all of a sudden everything's fine. This Moffat protégé has learned these soap opera skills. And the quite good blink and silence bits, Weeping Angels and Vashnarada bits. He's almost there. He's still trying to work it out. And of course, so this means that the next writer, the next new writer, the week after next, he'll have learned all of Moffat's skills in completely misrepresenting women and the GSD community.
You can't make the everybody lives complaint, because people have been dying recently.
Oh no, I'm talking about Kill the Moon. When the peripheral flesh pods get killed off, but they're soul, characters with names dying.
Okay, James. Was there anything positive in this episode for you? Anything at all that you liked? The lighting, the scenery, something.
The concept of the foretold was good. Same as the concept of the moon baby in last week's episode was okay. But the execution was just so rushed. So pulled out of someone's arse. Oh no, it's not a screw. Oh no, the Doctor's exposition. You can imagine the writer actually writing it out in that kind of fast-paced, rambly. No, this is an exposition, really. Kind of stuff. Oh no, that's not. It's not a scroll. It's a flag. And who would be willing to die for a flag? A soldier. So yes, you're a soldier from a long forgotten war. You had all of this technology put inside you, didn't you? Cloaking devices and phase shifting and a personal teleporter. But this technology won't allow you to die. So the word I have to say in order to end this war and to let you die is, we surrender. any kind of hint. This is the much more advanced thing of the old Terry Pratchett quote: if a guy is killed in the final scene of a play with an axe, the axe has to be hanging on the back wall. There had to be some kind of indication. How many soldiers go around killing old ladies? I'm not gonna. There is a joke answer to that, but I won't. Yeah.
Well, yes, I suppose the picking off of the vulnerable thing is a bit strange, and yes, wouldn't you start with the captain? I can see kind of what you mean there.
There is literally nothing foreshadowing the actual solution, and even then, the solution itself. Solution itself. Why is it? It's assuming that it's. I get the feeling that it was kind of explained how in his speech about the planets that were destroyed by the black hole, there would be the story of two planets that were at war. And the war continued for centuries, and one side used the weapon which created the black hole, but this soldier, dead, out of phase because of the malfunctioning technology, was still roaming around that area trying to carry out its orders, killing the enemy. But so again, the basic concept good, but all of it hacked to pieces, watered down, rendered totally meaningless, all to make way for yet more, oh, I don't hate you, Doctor, I just can't do it anymore. But is he a good man? Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, to hell with it. Danny says that he's okay. Literal talk, hang a lantern on it at the end.
I would say, yeah, I genuinely would rather have had more of Mary Poppins dancing around. Yes, I see. Yes, those sorts of scenes make me just show me Mary, quote unquote, God Poppins.
But that's the thing. Has Moffat forgotten about that entirely? Oh, that thing that we were supposed... Because, yes. Yeah, if these but we're getting into pure Moffat bashing there. The way he starts story arcs and then completely forgets that they exist, putting them on the you're supposed to figure it out for yourself / we'll do it later pile. That's the thing. I bet you good money that the end of the series will come and we will never see Mary Poppins again, or if we do, there will not be any payoff. That is just the way that Moffat works.
Obviously, well, you know how I feel about female villains in the Moffat era.
Oh, as I say, and that's my next bet. Last week was... everybody lives, they all magically live happily ever after, the problem never existed, we could have just all been eating cake for the last 45 minutes and nothing bad would have happened. This week is attempting horror with loads of soap opera rubbish. He's going to be writing next week's episode as well. The week after that is going to have the worst female bisexual villain you've ever seen. She's going to make Madame Kavarian look like Sarah Kingdom by comparison. Onto thee, crap writer, I give my soap opera and sitcom whining, and onto thee I bestow my complete inability to understand women and GSD issues. Go forth and ruin Doctor Who.
Yes, well...
So what you were saying about it feeling so much longer, as I also commented, Hartnell's, where the first Hartnell serials, where the first episode was nothing but atmosphere building, didn't feel as long as this. Seriously, I wanted to actually scream at the screen, if you're gonna go, just go. Yes, as the woman who the Doctor was going to kill but then saved. Oh, that's the other thing. Moffat can't do dark. He can only do emotionally crippled or or disadvantaged in some way. Either a la Sherlock. So the Doctor is just a sociopathic, neuroatypical, something like that. He doesn't know the actual meaning of it. Oh no, Doctor, that Clara's trying to have a touching heart-to-heart, but no, he wants to talk about planets.
Right. I don't know if I do. I suppose I do find this Doctor to be a bit neuroatypical. Not that keen on us being lumped in with sociopaths.
I apologise. I meant that in the same way that Moffat completely misunderstands the GSD community.
Right.
He has absolutely no idea of mental health issues or neuroatypical issues either. He's just writing what he thinks is progressive, or in this case, directing Capaldi to do what he thinks is dark and edgy. Just like he thinks. Oh, you're a dark and edgy loner, that means this. Kind of a bastardized blending of things that he's seen from bad movies about neuroatypical people, sociopaths, etc.
Right. Well, I mean, I think with this episode, obviously going by the documentaryette where they interview the writer this week, they didn't do last week, it was an attempt to kind of reinvent the mummy and say, look, mummies are scary. Mummies are not the poor man's vampire or zombie.
But that's the thing, though. It was the poor man's vampire. They actually referenced vampires in the episode.
They did, yes.
As I say, aside from the bandages, there is nothing mummy about it. I did say, oh no, it couldn't have been a ghost, but the fact that it's going out in and out of phase meant that it could have been. It could have been something original. But it's like trying to redo the Daleks. Again, Ian is so bored with the fact that I keep bringing them up, the fact that their part in the public consciousness, in the zeitgeist, is now past. But mummies were never that scary. I have tried to reinvent vampires. Myself as a writer, I think I did a fairly good job. But still, that there is more. That's the thing. Is a mummy just a corpse shambling towards you, groaning with its hands outstretched, covered in bandages? Yes. A mummy. In order to try and reinvent a mummy, in order for there to be something about it, it has to be more than just a corpse in bandages.
It depends how scary you find corpses, or I suppose a mummy is just another zombie. If I were actually in a tomb with a mummy, or mummies, I would actually be scared.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they are a scary concept. I think they're scary to see in a museum. I think they're anything dead scares me.
Yeah, but this goes back to what I was saying about your comparison with Ring. It is the whole thing that makes mummies scary is the dead walking scary. It is the same thing that makes zombies scary. It is entirely aesthetic. There is nothing about them in themselves which, beyond that aesthetic fear, which gives them any kind of power over us, whereas Ring and other Korean and Japanese Ring and other Asian horror, which I adore, is completely psychological. It is the monsters that we create ourselves. That is that is the only thing, really, the fact that, yes, this mummy was, in fact, a malfunctioning soldier, but again, why the bandages from head to foot as if it had been mummified? A zombie with bits of uniform falling apart would have worked. But no, he just had to make... That would have given us some clue, along with attacking the captain first, and then anyone else who was armed. The fact that if it deliberately avoided women and children, that sort of thing. But no, so this guy wanted to see a mummy in Doctor Who that wasn't a service robot for Sutek. Pyramids of Mars reference for the win.
At least he had a nice special decorative box for his jelly baby.
Oh, come on! Again, the little nods and tiny little fan wanks for the classic fans, and oh yes, even the "Are you my mummy?" remark.
Honestly, to be honest, I mean, actually, can I just say, Japanese horror, you know that my favourite, I think it's Japanese, horror film, yeah, it is, Audition. I don't even understand what happens in Audition. I just know it scares the fuck out of me. It just scares the shit out of me, anyway.
Yes, again, Yes, I hate Audition because, as I say, it is physical horror, it is the grotesque, it's we've made a hot air balloon out of human skins for the sole purpose of shocking you, solely for shock value. Aren't we dark and horrific? No, you're just really disgusting.
Okay.
As you say, horror is a deeply subjective thing. I just can't help feeling that, yes, if you were in that kind of situation, 66 Seconds, one of my favourite quotes from Farscape, fear accompanies the possibility of death, calm shepherds its certainty. Yeah, there's the foretold. I am going to die, so I'm going to spend the last 60 or thereabout seconds of my life giving as much information as possible. My final moments will be spent productively instead of panicking. Because, again, there was literally no point in it being a mummy except to throw people off the scent of the idea that it was a soldier, assuming that it was a soldier wasn't just something that the writer pulled out of his arse at the last minute, desperately trying to explain why this foretold was actually attacking people.
Well, a soldier could have been bandaged from head to toe in a field hospital.
Mm-hmm. But again, the whole bandaged from head to. Remember, we're talking about technology that can phase shift matter, teleport, so on and so forth, and they're still using bandages. It's there are no dermal regenerators in this advanced society. As I say, there probably was much more exposition. But it was cut out for more Clara whining. So, no, in the most massive, insulting change of hearts since the last time I watched a Moffat episode. Oh God, it's all terrible, I'm never going to fly with you again. Oh, and it's okay now, Daddy says it's all right, I'm going to keep... Yes, Clara has decided to stay. This basically since deep breath. The whole I don't know whether I can trust you anymore. Oh, I don't know if you're still a good man. Blah 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 blah. If you take all of that into account, it's taken 8 episodes to say, fuck it, I'm still going to fly with you. And yeah, as I say, leave Danny on the settee. Would he maybe like to come? But no, that would then he'd have to rewrite Rory again, and Danny would be dying every episode.
I am with you that it is sort of frustrating, and to be honest, I saw lots of potential in Courtney, but I liked Courtney when she was really feisty and cheeky, But then on Kill the Moon, she was a total fifth wheel. Oh, well, I don't know about total fifth wheel.
She was the reason why they went to the moon in the first place, and she was the youngster upon whom the Doctor imparted his valuable lesson. But that's the point. As I say, they could have spent the entire episode eating cake, and it would have made absolutely no difference whatsoever. To quote Stuart Hardy, it wasn't an ethical dilemma; it was a coin toss. And just the whole dragging out. Oh, will Clara leave? Won't she? I think I've already mentioned Tegan.
Yes, and they're playing with us because there are rumours that Clara is leaving, even though everything gets leaked these days, so we know she's in the Christmas special. But
that's the thing. It is the soap opera mentality. That is the second skill, the second attribute with which Moffat bestowed his new protege who wrote this episode. The talent to write the Weeping Angels and the endless coupling and sitcom soap opera rubbish.
I'm going to defend Courtney as a character. Because the points being, and I can vouch for this, having gone to an East London State Comprehensive, my mother teaches at an East London State Comprehensive, and Courtney, she might look like a Cockney stereotype, she might look like a 21st century Eliza Doolittle. That was so realistic, the writing, I know you haven't seen The Caretaker. One of the good things is Courtney basically gets in because she's the one who's worked out that Miss Oswald and Mr. Pink, Clara and Danny, are shagging. And I remember this. I know Courtney, I know Courtney as a person. And Doctor Who should take companion to a normal people and take them to the moon. And I think, and stuff like that, and I think they did that really well with Courtney. And while, for the most part, she wasn't cheeky enough or feisty enough in that episode, there are some lovely moments.
There's life right next door.
Shut up. I love how she's the first woman to step onto the surface of the moon, and what she says is, one small step for thing, one enormous step for a thingy thing.
About the link between Inferno and this episode. Mummy on the Orient Express. Yes, kiddies, look. No, that's not the point I want to make. The only possible reason to have a title like that is so that children will tune in thinking it's dinosaurs on a spaceship. You know, I wanted to give mummies a better rep. No, you wanted mummies attract kids. It's the same reason you had a dinosaur on the Thames. But one of the connections between Inferno and Mummy on the Orient Express, God, I hate that title, is the tin pot little Hitler who refuses to listen to the doctor because he's too obsessed with the smooth running of his operation and all the completion of his project. Professor Straumann, I think his name was, in Inferno, and the captain in this case. Fortunately, the captain's tin pot little Hitler routine only lasted about 5 minutes, but that's only because the actual plot of the episode lasted about a third of its total runtime. If it was a serial, he would have been saying, "No, doctor, it's a heart attack, I'm not going to..."
James, isn't it a bit suspicious that all the deaths start happening round about the time the doctor turns up?
Don't even get me started on that. Thankfully, with the exception of possibly, I think it was the Planet of Evil, the really mediocre episode in the Tom Baker era where everyone's wearing blue uniforms. They go to the antimatter planet on the edge of the universe, something like that.
Yeah, I'll agree it's a very flat one episode.
But aside from that serial, this is the first time we've seen the tin pot little Hitler and isn't it suspicious since the Pertwee era. How desperate must they have been to rip off old Who, to have dug up one of the worst, most irritating tropes. If they'd brought back the Master, I would have killed someone.
Right, okay. Well, you know, as somebody who's done lots of, like, really routine kind of jobs with loads of red tape and blah, 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 and it's, like, seriously, like, you have to use black ink. You know, I need a black biro because you can't blah, 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 blah. And you get so used to it that if loads of shit happens that's in any way irregular, it's just very annoying. It's just realistic. People relate to it.
You don't have... I'm talking here to the writers of the Troughton and Pertwee era. You don't have to use it every other bloody episode every other bloody serial, should I say, for 5 fucking years.
Actually, it just occurred to me that Mummy on the Orient Express contained a variant on one of the best, one of the most fun, cliched lines of classic science fiction, Doctor Who included. It's a variation on "There's someone or something on that ship." Which is it the Frank Skinner character who says that? There's something like it's someone or something. Which I think is actually also in the War Machines, which we just did, which we will be doing in a couple of weeks. Yes, it's someone or something. Dun dun dun!
Yeah, and oh god, I just couldn't get over the fact that Frank Skinner's character, he's the engineer of a starship, but he's dressed like a working class, just train engineer from the 1920s. So what the fuck's he doing? All I can think is what the fuck's he doing in there with all of the scientists who are trying to figure out Mummy. No, he is, when they say engineer, he is the engineer of a starship. He has a working knowledge of quantum physics.
He understands TARDISes.
Exactly. Well, half of TARDISes. He knows that there's a couple of drive shafts that need replacing. And oh, come on, it was such an obvious tease. It was such an obvious J.J. Abrams moment, wasn't it? Ooh, will Clara be leaving? Will this be her final episode? Will Frank Skinner replace Clara on the TARDIS? No, of course he won't. And you all know it because it's been leaked that she's in the Christmas episode. Stop. Why do they even try? As I say, this kind of, instead of actual drama and tension, just soap opera rubbish. Will Corey marry Rory and leave Dory?
And please don't bring up J.J. Abrams. None of this is as bad as the Star Trek. Nothing's as bad as the Star Trek. The Star Trek reboot isn't even a turd in a microwave. You've got to be like intellectual scum like Vil before you like this shit. And he's glad to see Abrams do Star Wars films. Just come on, just stop, just leave Star Wars.
Oh, I'm not sure if this is a positive point about Mummy on the. I'm not even going to say it. This episode. I'm not sure if it's a positive point, but it is an observation. Characters can actually develop in space.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time in how many weeks?
That's true. Also, alternative titles for this episode. I actually even think Dying on the Orient Express would be a really good title.
Yeah, but as I say, the writer can make up rubbish about wanting to try and reinvent or give a good rep to mummies all he wants. The only reason why it's a mummy and not a zombie or a ghost is to attract the kiddies. And Mummy on the Orient Express, like dinosaurs on a spaceship, is a title to bring in the kiddywinks to a soap opera episode which just happens to have a mummy in it. The actual title of the episode should have been Will Clara Leave or Won't She? And by the way, there's a mummy who's actually a soldier from a long-forgotten war.
I don't know. The thing is, Clara is attractive with big eyes. And also, do you really not find foxes sexy? I thought she was sexy.
You mean the singer butchering?
I like that version.
You like a lot of things, Alex, and yet somehow we're still friends.
I've never heard a jazz cover of Don't Stop Me Now, and I was like, hey, I didn't think I'd like this, but hey, I'm sold. I'm like, okay, and I find
again, the sole reason to have Frank Skinner in this episode when anybody could have played the engineer was, oh look, we've got Frank Skinner, tune in just because you like Frank Skinner. The only reason to have Fox's, whatever her name is, Fox, what's her last name? Glacier Mint. The only reason to have her in this episode is because, ooh, kiddies, look at this pop star who you know. It just hurts my brain.
Well, to be fair, in Frank Skinner's case, he's a lifelong Doctor Who fan who's been writing to them for years, and they finally found a way of putting him into to Doctor Who, so it's a fan saying, "Can I be in Doctor Who, please?"
Yeah, and yes, the fact that he's a relatively famous, a fairly famous comedian has nothing to do with the fact that they let him in.
Yes, I'm not suggesting it would work with you or me or. Yeah, but yes, all right, yes,
Dear BBC, please can I be allowed 5 minutes alone in a room with Stephen Moffat? I don't want to be on the series or anything, but if I can please bring my hobnail boots and a copy of How to Write Doctor Who.
Right.
Sorry. I've been waiting to slip in the hobnail boots for quite a while.
Right, okay. Okay. Now, James, as you know, I'm an extremely perceptive individual.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a Sherlock Holmes level.
And you deduce that I have mixed feelings and a slight level of hostility towards this episode.
Yes, I think that's probably the case. Are you going to... Because I honestly think, well, this was one you chose to watch without any prompting, to be fair.
Yes, just in case, to reiterate the reasons for it, I am now convinced that Moffat is grooming his successors, the next generation. And as I say, these last 2 episodes, they might not have Moffat's name on them, but they may as well have been written by Moffat's clones.
These were the 2 good ones. But did you actually, because you did also say that you didn't want to be left with Kill the Moon as your last Doctor Who experience.
Yeah.
So did you at least hate this episode less than Kill the Moon?
I am actually thinking of watching the next episode, solely because the concept looks so interesting.
Okay.
They have... It reminds me a great deal of certain episodes of TNG, a kind of mishmash of 2 episodes. One where an alien species which live in subspace were kidnapping humans and experimenting on them in order to try and learn how to adapt themselves to live in our reality. And another where there were these subspace bubbles, really, which caused reality to not work properly. So people literally fell through bulkheads and were half sticking out of it, dead, of course, when reality turned back to normal. So it is, again, like the soldier with ancient alien technology, fighting a war long after his planet had been destroyed by a black hole. That it is an interesting concept. How badly they will butcher that concept, hacking it to pieces in order to cram in yet more Clara soap opera rubbish. That is the only question. But to answer, yes, I did hate it less than Kill the Moon. But Kill the Moon was so preachy. As I say, the science consultation was performed by the Spirit Science channel here on YouTube. The people who think that Jews are from space.
They're not. But okay. Well, next week then. Can I save us all a bit of time and energy and have you and Ian as guests at the same time?
I should have finished my book by then. The second draft of my book. I'll be sending it off for consultation. So, yes, I should be free.
Okay, and when Ian starts giving us his dissertation on the history of puddings,
I will nail him to the point We are here to discuss Doctor Who, not board games related to Doctor Who, not other programmes which also featured the same actors who appeared in this episode of Doctor Who. This episode. Put the blinkers on him.
Yeah.
Yes, no offence, Ian, but oh, the tangents. You must have been so good at trigonometry at school.
Okay. Well then, I suppose it's, my final thought is, what are you in here for then? That was crap because I'm quite tired, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yes.
And James, your final thought and goodbye.
I've forgotten what I was going to say again. It is getting late. I will, I'm editing this, so I'll probably put it as a note at the end, or as an annotation over a caption over the screenshot, if I remember. But yes, will the grip of Moffat ever be eased from around Doctor Who's throat? I fear not.
Okay. And I take it's good night from the Great Holy Donkey.
Oh, excuse me, I was in too much despair. May the Great Holy Donkey bless writers who would never get past the gates of the BBC without being beaten to death for having an original thought. and actually executing it well.
Okay, well, on that bombshell, it's good night from James and the Magic Donkey, and it's good night from me.